Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, a website designer and business coach for entrepreneurs and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want a deep dive into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a successful business and stand out in a crowd, you're in the right place. After creating a multiple six-figure-a-year website design business in my 20s, I'm ready to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, branding, website design, mindset, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Breakthrough Brand podcast. I am so honored and excited for you guys to hear this conversation with Angie McPherson on the podcast today. She's a longtime listener of this podcast, an amazing brand photographer, an incredible educator for photographers, and just an encourager for creative business owners. And in addition to that, Angie's really awesome at marketing, which is what we are focusing on today. So we go a lot of different directions in this episode, from Angie's business story to what she sees working right now in digital product and course marketing. We talk about repurposing content for YouTube Shorts, selling on social media in a non-sleazy way, how to love Instagram. If you feel like you can't, maybe listen to this part with Angie because it might really encourage you for ways to be able to love Instagram again or for the first time. We talk about Facebook groups for your courses, how to market well to two audiences, launch strategies, working mom advice, and so much more. So basically, I would say this is a really fun marketing strategy chat between two women, myself and Angie, who really, really love marketing. And I think you guys are just going to love this one and pick up on so many helpful nuggets throughout. So here we go, my conversation with Angie McPherson. So Angie and I got to meet in real life last month, at the time we're recording this, at the Creative Educator Conference in Dallas, where we were both speakers and then also sat next to each other the whole time we weren't on stage. And I got to see firsthand just sitting next to you and both sitting next to you and watching you on stage, just how amazing you are. And and something we're talking about today, related to courses and what's working in marketing, you were literally in a cart open mode during the conference. So it's I'm literally sitting here during breaks and she's recording her videos and posting on Facebook and navigating all that. So that was cool to watch you in launch mode.
It was cool. And it was internally it was kind of chaotic. I was I need to be here. I need to be present. But also, I'm in a launch right now. It was fun. It was so fun.
How did your launch end up going?
It went really well. I usually launch this program twice a year, usually in January and sometime in the summer. And last year, for some reason, I got to the summertime and I was I really don't feel like launching this right now. And so it had been a year since I launched it. So I was really in my head, okay, how's this going to go? I haven't launched this in a year. I did launch other types of programs in between, but it did really well. People were I've been waiting for this. I thought you were going to launch last summer. So, now I'm thinking do I want to make this a once a year program and just enjoy the summer? Or do I want to go back to twice a year? So it was very successful. I definitely hit, every goal, but I'm just awesome. I wonder if I want to do this again in 6 months or just chill for the whole year. And do something else.
So it was literally closed for an entire year?
For an entire year.
Wow, that is a long time.
It is. Especially this is my 5th year and I've always done it twice a year. So people were expecting it. But I was creating a brand new product last summer to release in the fall. And I was if I go through this entire launch during the summertime, I just actually lost my personal assistant. We'd parted ways. And so I was if I go through this, I'm not going to launch the new product that I'm trying to get out there. And the new product was going to be an evergreen product. And I was this is the priority because once I get this set up, then I can just put things in motion to let this sell. It's not really an open cart, closing cart. So I gave myself permission to step away from my signature program and do something new. And so now I'm just at a crossroads whether or not I want to to do it again. 6 months or
Yeah.
wait a year.
That's cool. That's a big decision. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys listening can already hear how brilliant your marketing mind is talking through that even. But yeah, so to back up though, tell everyone a bit about who you are, what you do, where you live, who you help in your business, all
Yes.
that good stuff.
Yes. So I'm Angie McPherson. Hello. I am a branding photographer. I'm a marketing strategist and a hype woman for creatives is what I like to call myself. On the service side, I do branding photography. So I help entrepreneurs, small business owners, even influencers have beautiful branding photos for their business. And on the education side, I help photographers either pivot into branding photography or to grow their existing branding photography business with courses, memberships, and digital products.
Awesome. And before you transitioned to photography and like you're just in the time of your career, you were a concert venue marketing manager.
Yeah.
Which I think is so cool. I always love hearing people who've had multiple careers, like different types of work, like how that all happened. So first of all, how did you make that transition? And then like, do you feel like there were skills learned in that job that you're carrying over now?
Yes, absolutely. That was my dream job, before I realized I could work for myself. So I was actually very happy in that, career. So to pivot from, working a 9 to 5 in the marketing space to running my own business, there were so many things I pulled from that position. More specifically, creating a marketing plan. Like that was a big part of my day-to-day task as a marketing manager for a concert venue. I mean, we had concerts, we had comedians, we had the circus, monster trucks, literally Beyonce could come. And it was like every single event that came through there was a very specific marketing plan for that event. It had its own ideal client. So, your Beyonce fans are very different from, your Taylor Swift fans. So I had to really pull back. First we had the event date for whatever the concert was, and we had to pull back and create that marketing plan. How far in advance are we announcing this to the public? Which platforms are we, sharing this on? Is it social media? Is it a different, radio station, TV station? So I really took those big marketing tasks into my business. And now I can see on the smaller scale, where do I need to be showing up? Where do I need to be? What audiences do I need to be targeting? Luckily, as an entrepreneur, usually you're dealing with one target audience, maybe two if you're doing something different. When I was working at the venue, I was working with hundreds of different types of, audiences. So it really helped me to really own in on who I'm talking to, where they're showing up, what type of content, and especially doing market research and figuring out, what they want to see more of. Also another thing I really took from, doing that was really just like planning out step by step and helping you to get to that end goal, because we were always really money focused at an event venue. You're trying to make the most dollar for, the least expense. So I really took that into my business. Do I need to be spending money on Facebook ads, or can I show up organically in, a group? So really just planning out that launch step by step until you hit the goals.
Yeah, I love that. And that is so helpful as business owners, because a lot of times we don't think about what you just said of like less money for more value, and how we can it can be like more like spend happy.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay. I also wanted to know so I have a few questions on this, but going from just branding photography to teaching, what was that evolution like for you? And did you have a point where you're naturally like, oh, it makes sense for me to teach this now? Or did you know that like, hey, I always know like I'd rather be in education or add education to what I'm doing?
I am naturally a very helpful person, and I think that people are starting to see that. So my DMs, my emails, people are blowing up, can I take you to coffee? How did you do this? How did you do that? And I really realized I could create pretty much a framework of what I have done in my business, because I started as a wedding photographer and I pivoted into branding. So that's what most of the questions were. How did you pivot from a different niche of photography into branding? And so it was fun. I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was fun to really put everything I've done into some type of framework that I could, basically sell to help other people do the same thing. And I really started with a beta group. I knew what I wanted to teach. I knew what I wanted their transformations to be. It was just about figuring out how they wanted to receive the information, how often. And I had this huge idea in my mind. And as soon as I got my 30 beta students, like they completely shifted so much for me.
Ooh.
And so I'm very glad that I did it that way, because you really get to have this, you can have a Facebook community, you can have Zoom calls, and you're really talking to people who need what you can give and who want to have that same transformation. And so, I had surveys, I had calls, I had just open, honest communication. And they really transformed what I thought my education was going to be.
Yeah. I feel like we had similar experiences for me with Book.Designer and you with your course of like the beta student concept being a big part of that. And I also, I ended up having 40 students, but was like starting with 30 was the goal for my course. But with yours, were they paying, were they paying or were they getting it for free in exchange for like helping you? What was that like?
They were paying. I definitely charged because I wanted to see if this is something that people would pay for.
Yes. I think it's always like smart to charge for beta launches. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I had told myself, I really didn't know what I was going to charge. And I also let them help me with what I was going to charge too. And I don't know if that's the best advice. But I was thinking, okay, maybe $397, maybe $497. And so I sold my beta for $197. And they got the course, they got all future updates. I mean, these people paid $197 5 years ago, and they've gotten so much value because I keep putting in new bonuses and re-recording things and adding extra templates. And so when I was having these conversations with them, I was, like, hey, what would you pay for this? And they were right on the mark with what I was hoping to charge for it. So I definitely charged them in the beginning.
Yeah. How did the course end up changing from what you thought it was going to be when you had the beta students in?
So I was very new into education. And so I was trying to find the framework. Do I want to release this all at one time? Do I want to make it, module by module? Do I want to do live videos, pre-recorded? And so I thought I was just going to sit down for a weekend, record the whole thing, give it to everyone. And then as I started to put it out there, people were they were loving it. And then I wouldn't hear from them. And I'm like, if we could make this like a module by module, week by week release of information, I think it would really hold people accountable to show up, to do what they need to do. Because if everyone's getting the same thing, at least for what I'm doing, they're getting the same thing. Some people will watch it all in a day and then maybe never revisit it. Some people won't watch it until 3 weeks later. And so now I thought this would be maybe an evergreen thing, but I really shifted it to open and close cart because during the 6 weeks, I want to be very interactive with my group. I want us to walk through this together. I literally this sounds so crazy. People tell me it's crazy. I literally create a brand new Facebook group for every launch.
No, we talked about that course. I was like, oh my gosh.
I know. And people are like, why would you do that? Like, why don't you just have some big community? And I just like how, and I just like how since I'm releasing it week by week, we are all going through it together. And I don't want to have people from 3 years ago in the same Facebook group as someone who's 2 weeks in. And 3 years ago, they're asking these high level questions and they're past module 6 and people are 2 weeks in like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't know about that. And I'm like, we haven't gotten there yet. So literally every launch, it is very just tight knit, close. I'm doing challenges in there. I'm doing giveaways. I'm giving away Target gift cards and Amazon gift cards for people doing things. So it's high touch. It's very high touch. And I think that's why last summer I was like, I'm going to give this a break and focus on an evergreen product because I love to teach. I love to help people answer every Facebook question, hop on Facebook Lives. And so it sounds bizarre, but I really enjoy having a group for every launch.
Yeah, I mean, you gave me ideas with that when we were talking about it. Because I'm like, because I do for Book.Designer, it's like everyone is in one group, which you have other stuff happening after they finish.
Yes,
which is helpful
I do have.
That.
Yeah, I have an alumni program. So if they want to continue on for a small fee per month, they can be in the group with everybody in the alumni because I want everyone there to be on the same page.
Yes, which I love that, like basically like a back end membership to a course concept. Yeah, so with that, I want to ask you, thinking about selling online courses and just digital products in general, especially you, like you were saying, you just came off of a cart open period. What would you say are some things that you feel like hey, this is what you're seeing in marketing works really well right now for selling things. And even some things where you're like, oh, that is something that is outdated that people should probably stop doing, but maybe you still are seeing some of, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing more people get super personal with their online education. Back in the day when I used to invest in courses, I feel like I didn't really get any type of, FaceTime with the instructor. It was just like they would launch the course, it would go into Evergreen. They weren't active in the Facebook community. I would just, take it upon myself. And I feel like now I'm seeing more courses, people in their copy and their messaging that are like, this is, a live course, or I'm going to be with you every step of the way, or you can book, a one-on-one call with me as a bonus. And I feel like things are getting a little bit more high touch with certain things that are investing in. And maybe that's because I am, they're attracting me. That's the type of, investment I want. I want to know if I'm investing in you, I can ask you a question and I don't feel bad about it, or that you're actually going to answer that question. So I'm definitely seeing more of that. As far as what's not working anymore, I can only speak personally for me, is kind of the opposite of what I'm saying, where they have this huge team in between me and them, and I can't get to them. And I've also seen, and I think you and I talked about this too. This is the opposite of what I think is working. Is when I say team, I'm saying like people who are doing like admin tasks or customer service. Like I have that barrier where I can't get to the instructor, but I recently invested in something that I love that has a team of people who are experts. So there might be a Facebook ads expert up under the instructor. There might be a copywriting expert. James Whitmore has a ton of experts. And I love that because it just seems like so much added value. I'm not just getting the person I invested in, I'm getting in specialists that, have been vetted by this instructor.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree with you that right now I feel like people are looking for not the bait and switch that we've seen at times where it's like people are like, oh, it's kind of like you get access to me, but you don't, kind of language there. And I agree, like having, like maybe asking yourself, for those of you listening who are course creators, like, is there someone that you could bring into your program to maybe teach a live extra bonus class that's their expertise, not yours, and bringing in more experts kind of from within your team or even like external team.
Yeah, and using that in your marketing copy is like key. Yes. Like don't save it for just when people log in and they're like, oh, cool, I get access to so-and-so. No, use it on your sales page, create some graphics, have those people be talking about it. I feel like that will really help bring in more eyes and really help people to convert.
Yes. Yeah. For my last Booked Out Designer open cart period, I did my bookkeeper. I paid her. So paying the person for their time and expertise on to teach a class that was a bonus for people who bought that time. And cause like, that's not my thing, right? Bookkeeping. So having that, and it was cool cause then she promoted it some, even though I was primarily the one like being the focus promoter, and it was that major added value. And I got to like leave it in the course after. So now people can also watch the replay who weren't their live. So if you think about buying Booked Out Designer, that's still there.
Right. Exactly.
I think I totally agree that like that's maybe like an untapped thing a lot of people don't think about, that like you can include stuff that you're not the total expert on in your course.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask you too about your YouTube and your experience with YouTube, which we were just talking about this a little bit before recording, because I'm over here like, wait, do you have a video editor? Like, can you tell me some things about it?
Right.
But how long have you been on YouTube? What made you decide to choose YouTube over a podcast? And how does that affect your overall business and the marketing and all that?
Yeah, I love YouTube as, a consumer of YouTube. So every year I'm just like, I'm going to be better with YouTube. I'm going to be better with YouTube because I know like the SEO from YouTube is just gold, the discoverability. And I accidentally bumped into that because I hired a videographer years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I knew that I was going to start selling this program. I was like, hey, let's just get together. Let's create 3 videos on branding photography. And, we filmed it. I put it up on YouTube, and literally 4 or 5 years later, I'm still getting people who are probably typing into Google how to be a branding photographer, what type of photos take in your business. They're finding these old videos that I have since updated the description to include my opt-in, my social. I mean, back in the day, I was just like, hey, check me out on, my website. But now it's got like my opt-in, an invitation to my Facebook community for brand photographers, my Instagram, if there's a free class coming up. Now I have my evergreen product. So there's always a link in there about my free class, and just seeing people, look at these old videos and they're still converting into email subscribers and, eventually buying, my courses or digital products. And so it's just been mind blowing. So every year I'm like, okay, I'm going to bulk a couple of these, put them out there. And they just surprise me with how well they do. And more recently, I've been repurposing before I was repurposing my Instagram lives. So I used to go live every week, every other week. And, Instagram, you post something and in 24 hours, it's down the algorithm hole. And I'm like, how can I really repurpose it? So I uploaded them to YouTube, and I still do, just so I can send it to my email list. I wanted my email list to be able to watch this on the computer. I didn't want to link them to my Instagram live because then they have to watch on their phone. So I linked them to the YouTube. And then once again, with SEO, other people were finding me just organically through Google, through YouTube, through those videos. And so now I'm repurposing my Instagram Reels to YouTube Shorts. And it's just so random, some that will just take off. I mean, I have videos that have been up there for years that have a certain amount of views. And I put up a short last week and it surpassed in views all those videos in 3 hours. Just like, it's just bizarre. And I went to a conference a couple months ago, and I went to a YouTube breakout, and he was like, repurpose every short video you have onto YouTube Shorts, because YouTube is really starting to see, the value that TikTok and Instagram Reels have, and they're really, favoring YouTube Shorts. So get on it on the ground floor. So ever since I heard that, I was like, okay, all these Reels, let me save them before, I post them, and I'll post them to TikTok, post them to YouTube, and just kind of see what happens there.
Yeah. And with the YouTube Shorts, so I've also done that recently with Reels. And I also had a similar experience to what you just said of one I posted on, it got more views on YouTube than it did on Instagram. The Reel did. Yeah. Even though I have more followers, I hardly have any YouTube subscribers. So that was just interesting. And like you just said, it happened really quickly.
Yes.
But for me, I was posting it to Instagram and then going to my feed, saving it, and then posting it. So it had it says my name in the music. Is that what you mean when you say save it? Or are you saying you save it beforehand so that you can do editing and YouTube on it?
I complete the whole reel. So I have the text go over it. I have, clips, going in and out. And then I save it right before I'm getting ready to post. So it saves it. It doesn't save the audio, but that's fine, because nowadays you can find the exact same audio on any platform if you just search, the right word. So I'll save it. But I do have some reels that I didn't save from years ago, and I just Googled it, and there's something called instafinsta.com, or there's plenty of other things like that where you can put in the URL of your Instagram reel, and it will just let you download it without the Instagram logo, even with the audio. It includes the audio. And yeah, I was trying to share with somebody in my Facebook group, and Facebook flagged it you cannot share this link. And I was like, okay, this thing is top secret. Okay. So now I just tell people verbally, just Google Instafinsta, because I can't link it anyway.
I guess because Instagram wants to be able to put all that info on it, and
exactly,
and often not let you have the audio. Yeah. That's cool about Shorts though. So with Shorts, what do you have any tips for how to do a good job with those? When it comes to the titling, the length of them, of what you're seeing work? Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed, so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravy.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravy.com/CHM. Now back to the episode.
You know, when it comes to shorts, and I mean like Reels, TikToks, anything, especially Reels, they used to be like a good 30, 45 seconds, but now I'm seeing those short 5 to 7, maybe even 15-second. I say 15-second max because your Instagram stories now are pretty much, maxed at 15 seconds. If you have something longer than that, it'll get cut off. And so I'm just like, I try to get everything I need to within 5 to 15 seconds because I want the most eyes to be able to see this. And even the 5-second ones, those will loop. So that will count as another view. If somebody's watching it and it loops again, that counts as, it gives you a lot of bandwidth in the algorithm. And so I'm finding that those shorter and sweeter ones are working. Definitely the ones, and it really depends on your audience. Like you have to know your audience. My audience, I feel like they enjoy humor like I do. They like funny stuff. So I will just go all in on if I see a funny trend or making things like super relatable. Like my audience, of course, is photographers. So if I see a trend, I'm like, oh, how can I repurpose that for photographers? And what words and phrases can I say that photographers will automatically know, that they'll want to click on? So really just thinking about who you're targeting and what that person, likes to see, how they speak, what aesthetics really, really please them. And so I love shorts. Even with collabing with somebody, I did a collab when I was in Dallas a couple weeks ago. I collabed with other photographers while we were there. And so if there's other people in your industry that you can be kind of meeting up with, you don't even have to be in the same room anymore. You guys can just film stuff and spice it together and then, be a collaborator together. So so many ways. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to clarify, she's talking about literally you mean both of y'all being like, you both own the reel and it's posting to both of your, Yes. Which means I guess one of you guys just has to be the initial one to post it. And then everyone can edit it. Yeah. That's really cool. I'm seeing
so much more of that. So much more, especially, podcasters who are, talking about their guests that's on a show. I'm seeing it be literally on both of their feeds of the podcaster and the guest. And so I think that's just like genius to really just maximize the audience that you're getting to.
Yes. I've done that a few times with podcast content and even like a podcast sponsor piece, which like something I feel like I've had to think about doing that is like, I'd love to know your thoughts on this, like picking the cover for it when it's a contributor. Like how do you think about that? Are you trying to make something that just works with both of y'all's feeds or like not, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause a lot of people do like very intense, like this is the cover theme that's a template for every single reel and that sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah. I tried that at the beginning. I used to make little Canva templates and I would just like pop my head in one of the bubbles or something. And then I just got kind of lazy and I was like, I'm just going to find a good part of this reel, like the most interesting part. And I find that does much better. I mean, it just seems a little bit more genuine, a little bit more authentic. And so, I'll stick with that. And if something doesn't line up perfectly in the reel, I'll just like take, a still from the reel and pull it out and put some text over it. Maybe like I'll create an Instagram story and then I'll save it and then delete it. And so I think like the whole, I hate to say it as a branding photographer, but just like the whole aesthetic, like really prioritizing your aesthetic on social media is just like, it's gone. Like people want that true, authentic, those genuine types of aesthetics. which is great because it saves us time to not be creating all of that. But I also feel like it really shows exactly what you're trying to portray. Sometimes I'll see a cover and I'll click on the reel and I'm like, this is totally different from what I thought I was clicking into. And it kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth. And so I do feel like the authentic stuff is best.
Yeah, that is. I've also feel like I've noticed that trend. And it's tough because okay, so you just said it's less time for us, which on one hand it is, but another hand, it can feel like social media feels like a lot more work than it once did, because before it's like, a lot of people could have a social media manager and they're putting up a photo from a brand photo shoot you did a few months ago, and then they're writing a caption and then there you go. Where now it's like, we have to be so heavily involved. And even using a cover piece from Canva is less work possibly for you as the entrepreneur. True. Which is tough though. But I've been exploring that for myself of okay, it's funny because I was doing what you're saying of going on a story, making a cover, and then using that. And I've been making some in Canva now as the cover. And I'm trying to figure out, because I get what you're saying though. I'm and the truth is I think it's helpful to experiment. Because I am does this work better, or is it better to do it where it's in-app made? Yeah, it's tough though, figuring that out. So today we're talking about courses and digital products. We're talking all about marketing. And I've got to tell you, so much of selling your course or digital product happens on your website on a sales page. In my website template shop, I have incredible, strategic, beautiful sales page templates that can be added to any Show It website. There are a few different styles to choose from that can be easily integrated into your existing website or used as a standalone website just with a single page. These one-page templates have all that you need to strategically sell your course, program, mastermind, whatever it is. And I'm using the skills I have both as a designer and as a course creator myself to provide you with over 30 sections, basically different little layout canvases you can move around to drag and drop to create your sales page. And there are copy prompts throughout, so no copywriter, no problem. I actually paid my copywriter to work with me on this template and give me feedback so that it can help you Mad Lib style write your own copy into the template. Reed Gallagher got his sales page template and he said, I was able to fully customize and launch my sales page in one day thanks to the M-Shop sales page template. This template was beautifully designed, easy to customize, and everything I needed to help launch my high ticket coaching program. Amazing, right? So check out the templates at elizabethmccravy.com/sales and you'll be redirected from there to see all the sales page templates. In addition to that, you can get 10% off any template in my shop using the code BB Podcast, short for Breakthrough Brand Podcast. Oh, and I didn't mention this yet, but these are really affordable. So with the coupon code BB Podcast, plus choosing the 4-month payment plan, you can actually get started for less than $100 and your product can be up and making you money before you're even done paying for your template. Amazing, right? So again, go to elizabethmccravy.com/sales to check those out and use the code BB Podcast for 10% off. Now, back to my conversation with Angie. Yeah, as a brand photographer though, how does that feel when you think about maybe feeling like people are wanting less curated stuff on social, but then, brand photography is definitely a more curated thing?
Yeah, I love this question. I really still feel like brand photography is huge, especially with we don't just run our businesses on social media. We have, websites that need to have these beautiful high-res images. When you go to someone's website, I don't want to see that authentic Instagram reel stuff. I want to see some beautiful, high quality, you invested in yourself. I want to see some high quality imagery. Same thing with ads. If people are running ads, it's great to have those authentic, maybe selfie style Instagram stories ads, but I still do love seeing, Facebook ads that have really pretty graphics, your sales page having pretty graphics, when you are being on a podcast or you are, interviewing somebody and just having those nice high quality headshots. Those are still very huge. For social media, I like using high res branding photos maybe in between different reels, because you don't just need video. You can actually make a reel out of photos, If you're doing, let's say, if you have a branding shoot because you're launching, a part of it's saying you're having a brick and mortar store and you're like, I need a branding shoot of me behind the counter, working the cash register and me styling clothes, da, 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 da. It's great to have an authentic video of that. but to be able to create a reel just of photos, going through high quality photos of your actual products. I mean, literally, like people who create products, they definitely need to have these gorgeous branding photos because that stuff really sells. It really, really sells. Just think about looking in magazines or TV commercials, like having that high quality, beautiful imagery really, really works. So there's definitely still a high place for branding photos on social media. But I tell photographers who kind of worry about this, like, oh no, everything's going so raw and real. I'm like, well, what other services can you be adding to your branding photography packages? I have people who pay me to create reels for them now while I'm there during a branding shoot, or if I'm doing product photos in my home, they're like, hey, can you create like 5 30-second reel? So I feel like this shift in social media is only creating more ways for us to serve our audience.
Yes. And I'm like, yes, echoing everything you said about the need for brand photos. So, and you said it well, like if people don't want to see your like low quality, like real level of a photo on your website. Right. And that's actually what business owners need to try to get away from. As you grow your business, you're hiring brand photographers. But yeah, it is. I get how people could wonder, like, could what's happened on Instagram of like people enjoying the less curated vibe turn to websites, and I don't think it will personally. But and I love what you're saying too about offering, like, kind of meeting people and meeting the world where it's at and offering services as a photographer that relate to that. Yeah, and having even like as a photographer, if you were to even on your iPhone during the shoot, like as part of it, like get a few B-roll things of the shoot happening for your clients.
Absolutely,
that's that'd be awesome content.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. I want to know too, when we look at your business and how your digital products, your course, all of that kind of stuff, what is like the funnel structure like? Like how are people, I know YouTube is a part of that, but you also have your social media as a part of that. Like how are people finding you and then ultimately buying?
Yeah. So I basically attract people with opt-ins. I have a lot of free resources specifically geared towards branding photographers. And so they'll eventually join my email list and I'll share that opt-in, authentically. If I'm talking about, let's say I'm talking about branding photos in an Instagram reel, I might put in the bottom of the caption, hey, if you're looking for, more ideas of what types of photos to take for your clients, you can, download XYZ. And so I'm in my stories and my reels in my Facebook community. I have a Facebook community now for branding photographers. Even on YouTube, like I said, I will go out and just update those descriptions. If I have a brand new opt-in, I'm updating those descriptions to reflect that. And so all those people are coming in throughout the year on my opt-ins. And then when I'm actually getting ready to launch, that's when I will usually host a masterclass. And I will be pushing everybody there. So I have it all segmented and, my email provider, who's actually primed and ready for this. And so I'll target them. Then I'll actually do Facebook ads to get people to sign up for the masterclass. And I pimp out my website. Every single page has that masterclass link, the homepage, the resources page, the contact page. If you land anywhere on my website, I want you to get a pop-up to join my masterclass. And then I usually do that I usually announce the masterclass about 2 weeks. So when I was in Dallas with you, I was in that like lead gen, getting people to sign up for my masterclass. And when I came home, I actually hosted the masterclass. And then, I give them an hour worth of free content. And people, I think just I'm such a natural teacher, people will say like, I could have paid for this. Like I know so many people who do webinars that barely scratch the surface. And I'm like, no, I'm going to give you as much as I can so that even if you don't invest in this, you're going to still be like, wow, this was great. Maybe next year, maybe the year after. I've had people who've been on my webinar list 3 years and they watch the same masterclass every year. And then they eventually buy, my product 3 years later. So I want to really serve and give people as much as I can during that call because I know that my course is even more valuable. I don't feel afraid of giving out all this content because I know when you invest, your mind's going to be blown. And so after my masterclass, I pitch it to them on the call, and then I have that 7-day open cart sequence where they get an email every day. New bonuses are coming out. I'm sharing testimonials, creating a payment plan if need be. And that last day I have like 4 emails. I'm sure they are so annoyed with me, but it always surprises me. I'm like, wow, I haven't had like 90% people unsubscribe to me, but that's because I am not always constantly in sales mode. Like I'm in active sales mode once, twice, maybe 3 times a year. And I see a lot of people who are always in sales mode. And it's just like the only time they show up on social media is when they're selling something. Like I'll see someone, and I'm not going to name any names, but I'll see someone specifically and I'm like, oh, yay, she's on Instagram. Like, what has she been up to? I haven't seen her in 6 months. And she's like, hey guys, buy my course. And I'm like, girl, where have you been? And so I always tell people like, yes, it's okay to like be annoying in that 7 days, but then you're done. Then you're going to go back to the free content and sharing all, personal stuff and really, continuing to build that personal brand. Don't be afraid to, when you're selling something, be all in. You're trying to help people. You're not trying to just make a buck or, scam anyone. You're truly trying to help people in their business, in their lives, transform themselves. Let yourself be there, be present for that 7 to 10 days or whatever. And then you can go back to your regular life because it's not going to be every day. So yeah, that's pretty much my funnel. Lead gen throughout the year, masterclass, email sequence, cart close, and then I move on.
Yeah, I love that. And I love to because you do with that have such a cart open, cart close model, which is so nice and clean, like you're saying, of not having to sell all the time. And I love that doing the webinar models working so well for you too. I want to try that more. I've only done that once in my business as part of the launch. I'm like, it works well still, I think.
Yeah. People have said challenges. Do you do a challenge? Okay. No, people have said challenges. They work well, but I cannot wrap my head around a photography challenge. I can't wrap my head around it. I'm like, I don't want to tell hundreds of people to go out and shoot something because, not everybody's going to, I want to be able to teach them something where they can go off and do it themselves. I can't wrap my head around any type of challenge. So but I hear that that's good for, different types of niches.
Yeah. I can see how that would be good. Yeah. And I tend to do pretty simple email launches. And, but the one time I did more of a webinar launch, it went really well. And I am that's but it is so much more labor intensive, like you're saying.
Yes.
Than more of an email launch. Yeah. Okay. And with all that too, I love how you were emphasizing the importance of not posting and ghosting, basically.
Yes.
But posting when you're in launch mode. I like that phrase, posting and ghosting. I just slowly came up with that on the spot there. But let's talk about that a bit. Because you show up really well on social media, which by the way, literally as we're recording this, you are almost at 10,000 followers. You're right there.
Oh my gosh.
It's
I know.
I'm sure by the time this airs, you'll be there, but it's you're 10 people away or something, which I know. Oh my gosh, get there.
So many people have messaged me I just followed you. I'm trying to get you to 10K. And then the next day it'll be 4 people have unfollowed. I'm I'm not going to get there anytime soon.
That is I feel when I hit 10K, it was it happened. And then it was back and forth for a while.
I'm already preparing myself to see that 10K for an hour and then for it to go back to 999.
Yes, I love it. Well, maybe after we finish recording, I'm gonna be everyone go follow Angie right now. Get you there.
That'd be awesome.
But yeah, so with that though, you show up really well on social media with content and free value add, and then also I think promote your stuff really well. In a very authentic way. So can you talk about what strategies you use and your mindset even around show up on social in a authentic way and non-sleazy and all that?
Yeah. So many people get so intimidated by social media, and the more you let yourself get intimidated by it, the less genuine you show up. If you really just treat it as people you are trying to connect with, people you're trying to help, people you're trying to cheer on, it becomes so much easier to show up authentically. I feel the people who are just constantly in sales mode and don't have any type of personal brand, I feel they might find it intimidating. They're I'm just using this as a way to make money. I'm just using this as a way to get leads. But if you genuinely care about people, so taking time to just go and see what other people are doing, maybe your ideal client, maybe your colleagues, and sharing them on, seeing what they're doing. Even I like to look in Facebook groups for kind of like market research to see what people are struggling with. And if I see a lot of people struggling with a certain topic, then I'll go make a reel about it, or I'll make an Instagram post about it. So just really shifting your mindset into not seeing it as this just big, lead generator, but or just a real true way to connect with people. I share a lot of non-business stuff. I share, like last year, we bought an investment property, and I know you have multiple investment properties. So like, that's not business related, but gosh, is it just like exciting and relatable? And so, when we were like fixing it up and painting and all this stuff, people were just really, really interested in it. And I could just see the trends of people who were in my DMs asking questions about that. Eventually, they bought something out of my course or my digital products or my shop or something, because I'm staying top of mind. They're interested in what I'm doing. They also know that I specialize in brand photography and growing a photography business. So when they're ready to make that type of investment, then I'm the first person that is coming to mind. So, I always tell people, just share about your life. And of course, be comfortable with what you're sharing with. You don't have to share literally everything. But, share relatable things, funny things, exciting things, just getting people into your life. And then also taking equal time to go out and really be helpful on someone else's post, or just show love to them, or be curious about what they're doing. They might be posting something in their stories. Can you send them a DM and ask them a question? Just really, it's all about building relationships, honestly, building those relationships so that when you do come to a season in your business where you're launching something, or you're having something coming up, then these people are just already like raving fans. They want to see what you're working on. They're excited. And especially, and I talked about this at the conference, like just telling people what you're working on as far as a new product. When I was working on beta launching this program, it wasn't something where I was like, hey, now I'm launching this, who wants to buy? I was telling people, hey, I have a beta community, and wow, they're blowing my mind. They're telling me that you guys want more editing tips or posing tips. And so now I'm creating this extra bonus for when I launch, and just really talking about it naturally. And so, and at the end of that, if you want to get on the wait list so that you're the first person to know, join here. Like, that's going to help you convert a sale more than it would be to post a ghost after come back after 6 months and be like, now I'm selling this. It's going to be like, okay, where have you been? Nobody cares.
Yeah. Yeah. And letting them kind of be along with you for like the co-creation process of seeing it. I totally agree. And that's the thing too, I think a lot of people make a mistake of when they launch a new product, of like, you're like top secret the entire time, and then people aren't ready for it at all, which I agree that there's a correct time frame to start talking about things. And I've always been very strategic about that, especially with website templates. It's like, if I start talking about it too soon, I'm going to halt sales because people will be excited about the new template. So it's like, it's the right timing of like timing it right with when close to when you're launching it, all that, and getting people ready for it. Yeah. I love that. I feel like you show up excitedly, and you seem to really love social media.
I do.
You do? Okay. I was going to say, like,
I do.
And I think that's something right now, and I've personally struggled with this a little bit. Last year, I feel like I got burned out on Instagram because I was like, new mom life. But never felt like I was ready to like even show up, and then everything was changing so much. And it was just like, I felt like really old, honestly, on Instagram. I'm like, I don't understand any of this, and I don't even have TikTok. So I felt all of those feelings. And I want, though, and that's been one of my goals this year actually already, is like to try to like fall in love with Instagram again, because I used to feel that way. So like, what advice would you give for someone, myself and everyone, who's like wanting to like have that love back for being on, whether it's Instagram or another social media, of like really enjoying it again?
I love that you said that, because that is the first step to being successful on social media and to selling on social media, is you have to genuinely love it. If you're doing this as a chore or a task, like I said, it's not coming off authentic. You're not going to be consistent with it. So I love that you asked that question. For me, I've gone through seasons where I'm like, oh, I'm kind of burnt out. And what really sparks my love for social media is for me to be able to curate everything. I'm curating what I am putting out there, and I'm curating what I'm consuming. I've gone through seasons where I'm like, okay, if I want to love social media, I have to stop looking at these types of videos, or I need to, maybe even unfollow a couple of brands, because they keep showing up and it's not putting me in the best mindset. And so really curating what you are consuming and giving yourself a time limit, and then curating what you're putting out there. If you feel like you just have to put out random facts, and that's something that you don't want to do, you're not going to love it. If you feel like, so many people say like, oh, I hate all these like voiceover dancing trends, da, da, da. And that's fine. Don't post that. You'll, if you're trying to force it, you're not going to love social media. But if you think that doing a voiceover, a behind the scenes, and you're talking to your mic and saying, in this step, I did this. And if that's something you like, post more of that. So just really curate the input and output of social media to something that makes you excited to open up the app and connect with people every day.
Yeah, I love that. And that's so true that sometimes we don't pause to like analyze, why are we not loving this? And how can we even like change that symbol? Like you're saying, like really curating what we're posting and who we're following. And that's been helpful for me of like being like, especially with what I'm posting, kind of like thinking through with the new era I feel like we're in of how social media is, especially Instagram, because that's where I market the most. I know you're similar in that way, but it's like it's changed so much with the kind of content that does well. And it's like, I feel like I figured out the kind of content that used to do well. And now I'm like, okay, I got to figure out this kind of content that does well now. And like, what do I want that to look like for me? Like you're saying, of like, do you want to do the dancing thing? I feel like that's kind of gone away, but I never really embraced that as much because I didn't want to do that, but kind of figuring out like, okay, what for you, what are you drawn to? How can you make this your thing for your niche and your audience? Yeah, I love that. Okay. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, you market to two audiences in a sense. I mean, I don't know how much you see it that way, but like you have other photographers and you literally have people who need photography services, which are not other photographers. And I have that similar thing of like, I have templates that are not for designers, a course for designers. And like, it's very separate because like the designers don't need the templates and et cetera. How do you navigate that in your business? Do you feel like you focus on one audience more than the other? Or do you see them as together in some ways? Like, how do you do that?
I love that. I've gone through seasons. I've definitely, when I first started selling my courses, I was still very heavily focused on targeting entrepreneurs, and the photographers were kind of a secondary audience. But now it has switched because the way that I want to build my business this year is more of the online, business model with, entrepreneurs as a secondary. And so I have shifted my messaging that way. But I also find that the more I speak to photographers and the more I post relatable, photography, humor, things like that, other entrepreneurs are seeing me as the authority. So even though I'm not talking to them, they're like, oh my gosh, Angie's teaching all these photographers how to do X, Y, Z. Like she must be the go-to photographer for branding photography. So I am finding an overlap there.
Yeah. And that makes sense because it's like you're creating credibility for yourself as a brand photographer, which then attracts the people who need brand photography.
I want to show off my clients because I want photographers to see that I'm shooting brands. So I would never split, personally, I would never split my social media because then one audience wouldn't see the credibility of the other.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do you feel like there is a time to split social media? What would you say that is for some people?
I mean, if your audience is completely different, then yes. Like I get this question in my photography courses all the time, and I'm just like, what is your goal here? Are you trying to pivot to a new audience? Because that's what I did. I was pivoting from weddings and brides to brands, and I did not split them because I wanted to just pivot everything over. I didn't want to do weddings anymore. So if you're looking to pivot into a new audience, I would say stick with your social that you have and just, rework it. But if you have two very distinct audiences that you have no plans on merging or creating something for both of them, I would keep them separate.
Yeah, that's helpful. And it's also like, I don't know what you think about all this. I've struggled with that for me though, of like, should I do multiple Instagram accounts? And I ultimately decided not to, and I could change my mind at some point because things are always changing. But more so for me, it was like, I am figuring out how to like really be consistent on like one right now again.
Right. Why create extra work?
Yeah. And it's also like when you're creating a personal brand, it can be so like, okay, people are following you for you. And then you have these different products. So keeping it all together can be nice in that way. And that was ultimately what I decided. Like, I don't want to make people who want to follow me in like all different spots. But then it's almost helpful to like have explored the multiple account concept, because then that makes me be able to be like, well, what do I think is the benefit of if there were 2 accounts? Well, why don't I just bring that same energy to 1 account?
Yeah.
You know, of like posting, like showing up very specifically to that audience and just let it be what it is, that some of those people aren't your audience.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. Okay, I have a few questions, a little rapid fire-esque to close out for us. This was so fun, though. I feel like, again, I could ask you, maybe I'll even throw one of my final questions into my rapid fire questions I want to ask you. Okay, first thing, though, an unpopular opinion you have about maybe online business course creation, something that maybe other people don't think but you feel about it.
Oh, okay. For me, I know everyone's like, don't hustle, work-life balance, blah, 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 blah. I honestly think if a season of hustle like really inspires you, puts a, fire under your butt, and like it really aligns with you, it's okay to have a season of hustle. I'm not saying your whole life should be work, 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 work. But, you saw me in Dallas. I was hustling. Like I just had a new virtual assistant start this week. So throughout my whole launch the past couple weeks, it was just me. And I was in hustle mode. And that's okay, because I know that things were getting done. I know that things were launching when they needed to launch. And I know that there would be a light at the end of the tunnel where I could actually relax. So I know a lot of people will say like, oh, like just make sure your life is just like perfectly balanced and you never get wired up. And I'm like, I don't know. If I can plan a hustle, if I know a hustle's coming, then I can, like before I did my launch, I scheduled a facial. I went to the movies by myself. I had like a really good week of, when my kids were in school and preschool, some really good like me quality time. And then I hustled and I stayed up till 2:00 in the morning some days. I got up at 4:00 in the morning some days, because I knew, February, I'd be ready to slow it down. And so don't be afraid to, if that aligns with you. Like if you don't like hustle at all, don't do it. But if you're like me, and you get kind of excited about it, then don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, I think that literally you're right. So right. People don't say that enough. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, because it's something, sometimes you need to do that push to get the thing done.
Yes.
And I think something so often that's unfortunate, this would be one of my unpopular opinions about business, is that a lot of the people who are like, only work 5 hours a week and like have a multi-million-dollar business and like, that's how you do it. Their story was that they hustled to get there, and now they work 5 hours a week because they built it up to what it is. Yeah. So it's like, well, can we really get to where you are doing exactly what you're doing now? Probably not.
Yeah.
Which is even true of me and both of our businesses right now. Like they looked different when we started. It required different of us. But yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. And I think we are similar personality wise in that, of like, I love launching and like promo periods, because I'm like, let's go. Like, let's get this thing. So yeah, that's fun. Okay. As you just said a minute ago, as a working mom, you have 2 kids, right? 2?
I do. I have 2 boys.
Okay. So what would be, and maybe tell their ages too for everyone listening, but like, what's a working mom thing? Like, how do you navigate that? Even as you're talking about hustling till 2 a.m., like, how does that relate to, how does that relate to mom life and any like working mom tips?
Yeah, I have 2 boys. One is 8 and one just turned 3. And my advice really is, first of all, give yourself lots of grace, okay? Because, like you said, we'll see people in different parts of entrepreneurship and they're talking this and this and that. I'm like, okay, but do you have multiple kids? Do you have schedules? Do you have you can't just compare yourself to everybody else, And so give yourself lots of grace and really just ask for help and support. This is something I hate, asking for help. It is like, I just hate it. And so, when my youngest was little, like I would just take so much pride in being like, oh, I'm working during nap time and he doesn't go to school and da da da. And I got to a point where I was like, girl, you need help. You need help. stop being so like prideful and put your kid in preschool. And so when I did it, it was like, oh, it was just like, I could be like, when my kids are gone, I can be present in my business, give it 100%. And then when they get home, I've already done my work for the day. I can be a present mom, give them 100%. So really just don't be afraid to ask for help, whether that's, from just having somebody watch your kids or, kind of telling your spouse, hey, these certain hours of the day, I need it dedicated to my business. Can you take over 100%? Just whatever it looks like for you, find help.
Yeah.
God help us.
Yes. No, I'm with you. And it's so like, gosh, to anyone else who is wants to be a mom but isn't a mom yet, as someone who's like, I still feel like I'm a new mom. I'm technically not. He's like a year and a half. But like, you don't know what that even looks like until it's happening. Because like, I feel like I could have heard you say that before I was a mom and I'd be like, yeah, I'll ask for help. But then it's like, you don't even know what help you need until you're in it. And it looks so different day to day. But I'm with you that like, for us, when we put Colin, he's in school now, preschool 3 days a week. And it was a huge game changer for me work-wise. And I am like, wow, I'm very impressed with the version of myself that was doing it both. But I'm also like, I don't want to do it that way forever without any help because it was really hard. So yeah, I love that advice. Okay. What's a goal for you? Like, what are you working on in your business this year? What's a 2023 goal? Tell us what's happening.
So this is my 10th year in business. And I just did a story today. I was like, what am I going to do to celebrate? And I think I told you this in Dallas. I really want to host an in-person branding photography workshop. So I think I'm going to like make that my next big thing of the year. And I love what you said about the way you talk about things, but you don't talk about them too early because you don't want to basically halt sales. And I was going through the same thing because I wanted to shout from the rooftops all last month, hey, I want to host a workshop, but I was like, I'm going into launch mode. I don't want people to be like, oh, let me just wait for the in-person workshop. So I'm just going to be starting to talk about that now that my card is closed. And now I'm going to be taking people on that journey. So I'm going to be asking people, what cities do you have in mind? And then when I pick the city, I'm probably going to go there ahead of time and be taking stories there and say, here's where I'm going to be hosting the workshop and I'm looking at this place. And so just really taking people on that journey for when I'm ready to open up registration for that.
Yeah. And remember, Nashville would be a great place to
Hey,
have
that's the top of my list. At the top of my list.
Seriously, that would be so cool though. It's a great spot for that sort of thing. But yes, that's so exciting and smart on you to like structurally figure out when to start talking about it. Yeah, so tell everyone though where they can connect with you, follow you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so my website is angiemcpherson.com, and then my Instagram is Angie Janine. So my middle name, Angie, Janine. So yeah, those were most active on my website and my Instagram.
Awesome. Well, everyone go follow you. You'll probably gonna have that 10K next to your name when we see this and they can add another. Yeah, if she's not, then you got to help her out and get her there.
You're sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you though for coming. This was so fun.
Yeah, so fun. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast today and for staying until the end. I appreciate you being here. And if you enjoyed this episode, then I want to invite you to check out my online course and coaching program for designers, Booked Out Designer. In this program, I teach you how to build a successful in-demand booked out business as a designer. You'll learn everything from the exact experience I take my clients through to things like figuring out your niche, mastering discovery calls, pricing your services for profit, creating contracts that will not cause you legal troubles, and my exact social media strategies to book clients. You even get to watch recordings of me in actual meetings with my actual clients so you can really learn through what you're seeing. We take things you're learning on this podcast and so many topics I never even cover on this show and deep dive into them. So in addition to the amazing course, the course is 9 modules of teaching with over 90 lessons. You get group coaching calls with me and access to an exclusive Facebook community of designers just like you. And fun fact, this isn't one of those kind of Facebook groups where the founder never comments on posts or you never see them in there. You'll find me there all the time, ready to help you out with any business question you have. So to get info on the course and to see when the doors will be opening again, head to elizabethmccravey.com/BOD, short for Booked Out Designer. I hope to be able to coach you and teach you inside of the course soon. And don't forget that you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening so that you never miss an episode. And a great way to support the show is to leave a rating and review, share it with a friend, share it on social media. All of that will help get the word out. All right, I'll see you again next week.